Wanganui's council has voted unanimously to do everything it can to keep Stewart Murray Wilson out of its community after widespread fears the notorious sex offender will strike again. The Corrections Department says it's done everything possible to allay the public's fears.
Look, I knew that there would be a lot of people fearful and worried, and I guess I'd just like to assure those people that what we're trying to put in place here is a plan that can reduce those fears, that they can feel safe about it. We know Mr Wilson, we know where he will be. It's a very open process, and you know, sometimes we haven't been able to announce these things as early as we have done here, and I think that gives us the best chance of managing this.
But Councillor Michael Laws called Mr Smith sneaky and devious, and he joins us here now. Welcome to the show, Michael. Can you tell us why you called...
Good morning, Tamati and Tony.
Morning. Can you tell us why you called the Department of Corrections boss Ray Smith sneaky and devious?
Oh, where do I start? They'd put building and resource consents into the council at the end of July, start of the August. They'd known for months that Stewart Murray Wilson was coming to Wanganui. They had a whole PR campaign dedicated with 3 weeks to go. They then foisted him on us as a fait accompli. They didn't consult with anybody. They haven't actually even informed half the residents that are going to, or the neighbours that are actually going to be affected by this placement. It's been a very, very bad job by Corrections from the get-go.
You had a meeting last night. It went until quite late, so I hear. What was the outcome of it?
We have decided, and I'm very proud of my council colleagues, all of them, and indeed of my community, that we have decided that unanimously we will resist Wilson's parole into our district, and that we'll employ all means, political, community, administrative and legal, to try and resist this man. And in a funny sort of way too, Tamati, we're not just doing this for Wanganui, we're doing this for all of the country. People like this shouldn't be let out anywhere because of the risk and the amazing danger that they represent to us all.
There's been talk about this judicial review. For those of our viewers that don't understand what that is, can you explain what that is and what you'd hope to achieve?
Sure. Corrections have made the wrong decision the wrong way, and essentially a judicial review is a High Court action that proves that. It makes them go back to square one and make that decision all over again. And we believe that we've got a very good legal case looking at what they have said publicly, but also some of the papers that have come out, interestingly, privately, some in the newspaper today, but they wouldn't give us yesterday, that they've made the wrong decision the wrong way. And really a judicial review is about proving that.
Yesterday we had lots of feedback on this particular topic, and we had lots of people saying he's done the crime, he's done the time, now we need to start reintegrating him back into society. What have you got to say about that?
He can't be reintegrated back into society. I mean, that's the whole point. And that's what the parole board said. He is a recidivist sexual offender with a brain wired to offend. He's just waiting for his new victim. That's the way he works. And that's the reason the parole board have taken these extraordinary precautions around him. But even they can't guarantee us, and Corrections' record is that they have failed many times before, they can't guarantee our community. He's a prime candidate for preventive detention. That was when somebody represents such a danger to the community, they shouldn't be let out. There are other prisoners who fit his status, but it's just a quirk in the law that allows him to be released.
So now that you've made this decision, what is the first step exactly?
We've got four. We've got the resource and building consents. They still haven't been approved yet. We've got the judicial review. We've got political agitation. And listen, if the government can put in retrospective legislation last year, remember the search warrants in the Uraweras, and the High Court ruled against the government on that one? Well, yes, last year the government rushed legislation through, retrospective legislation to validate what the police were doing as unlawful. Well, so how come preventive detention can't apply to Stewart Murray Wilson? And then also we have a mass shunning, or a mass community shunning campaign if all else fails. But we're very confident we can overturn this decision. Okay,
thank you for joining us this morning, Wanganui District Councillor Michael Laws.
Andrew
McKenzie is the lawyer for Stewart Murray Wilson, and he joins us now this morning from Christchurch. Welcome again to the show, Andrew. You've heard what the council have to say about this, what the outcome of their meeting was last night. What's your reaction to that?
I think that it was clearly signalled at least some elements of the council would be challenging this, so it's not a surprise, and in some ways it will be of assistance to have another party at least challenging the issue as to location and Mr Wilson living in Wanganui.
So you think it's a good thing then that they've come up with this appeal?
Well, I think it will assist in Wilson's opposition to go to Wanganui. That's probably about all the parties have in common, because clearly if the court was to rule that he has to go to Wanganui, then I think the parties will be on different sides as to under what circumstances and under what conditions. So I think we're together on the issue of no to Wanganui, but if we lose that battle, then I think the parties will probably separate a bit as to, well, if it has to be Wanganui, what should be the terms? And I think Wilson's proposed terms will be a lot less stringent than I'm sure what the Wanganui Council would like to see.
We talked about it yesterday morning about there being an alternative to Wanganui. Are you happy to discuss the other locations this morning?
I can't really go into any details. There's a number of people that are being spoken to, and obviously they probably don't want the glare of publicity at this stage, but I imagine things will come out in test of time.
Right. Michael Laws was just saying then he called the Department of Corrections boss sneaky and devious. Do you agree with how the department have handled this?
I think that's probably a fair assumption. I'm obviously not aware of all the discussions that have taken place between the council or Mr. Laws and the department, but one of the examples of the sneakiness perhaps is this idea about two people following Wilson around. That was not discussed at the parole board. It was not raised by corrections before the parole board. It is not part of the parole conditions, but apparently corrections seem to be trying to sneak that in under some sort of reintegration rule. So there has been a degree of that, and I'm sure they'll be the people to answer those questions.
Do you think that the public are overreacting on this particular issue? It's been quite heated.
I think it has been heated, and it's obviously issues of sexual abuse and the like are obviously very emotional issues for a lot of people. So in that regard, I can see how people's emotions would be brought out on the issue. I think there is a degree of hysteria. I think corrections haven't helped that by promoting Wilson as this very, very dangerous person that's too dangerous to even use Trade Me. I would have thought corrections would be better at perhaps balancing some of the bad press that's out there and perhaps reassuring the public that, hey, Wilson is minimum security prisoner. Wilson is someone that has had no formal misconduct charges or criminal charges in prison for 18 years. And I think if the scales get balanced a bit with accurate information, then it may well help to assist the community, whichever community, in accepting or at least tolerating Wilson.
All right, thank you for joining us this morning. Andrew Mackenzie, the lawyer for
News Update is brought to you by TVnz, proud sponsor of the New Zealand Olympic team.
The fight to keep a serial sex offender out of Wanganui has gone up a notch. The Wanganui District Council has voted unanimously to take every legal step available to prevent Stewart Murray Wilson being paroled to the area. Briar Wells reports.
These councillors are vowing to do whatever it takes to stop Stewart Wilson moving to their city.
We're doing this for all of the country. People like this shouldn't be let out anywhere because of the risk and the amazing danger that they represent to us all.
The Wanganui District Council passing a motion to take all legal, political and administrative steps to prevent the 65-year-old's imminent arrival. The head of corrections says despite the fierce opposition, plans for his release remain on track.
It's no great pleasure for anyone to know that a person like this is coming to live anywhere near them, and I absolutely understand that.
The council's drawing up a legal challenge, seeking a judicial review of the decision.
We believe that we've got a very good legal case looking at what they have said publicly, but also some of the papers that have come out. They've made the wrong decision the wrong way, and really a judicial review is about proving that.
Wilson's lawyer isn't surprised the council is opposing the move, but he says his client doesn't want to live there anyway. He's also set to challenge the conditions he will live under.
It will be of assistance to have another party at least challenging the issue as to location and Mr. Wilson living in Wanganui.
But Mr. Mackenzie won't say where Wilson wants to go, but it's understood he's expressed a desire to travel. And as for Wanganui, if a judicial review doesn't work,
we have a mass shunning, or a mass community shunning campaign.
Steps the council is confident will help keep him out. Briar Wells, One News.
This One News Update is brought to you by TVnz, proud sponsor of the New Zealand Olympic team. News Update is brought to you by TVnz, proud sponsor of the New Zealand Olympic team.
We have signs tonight that not everyone will shun the Beast of Blenheim if he settles in Wanganui. Māori and church leaders say they want to find ways to help the serial sex offender Stewart Murray Wilson. But others are determined to serve him with a community trespass notice, as Sarah Batley reports.
This is where Stewart Murray Wilson could soon be calling home. But daily life could be difficult for the convicted sex offender after the District Council passed a resolution to help the community file trespass notices against him.
We could have a community campaign and many people would support it to do that, but that's our last option.
The moves to shun Wilson are being welcomed by many of the city's retailers.
I wouldn't serve him here purely because of the children and the young girls that come in here.
But others say while they don't like what Wilson's done, they'd still have him as a customer.
I'm sure he's not going to be wandering in here on his own, and there'll be processes in place, as say, to protect people.
I just serve without judgment, so I served a guy who's probably on drugs this morning. If he wants a coffee, he's entitled to a coffee too.
Trespass notices are one option the council is exploring to prevent Wilson from living in a house in the grounds of Wanganui prison. It is also seeking a judicial review.
It will be of assistance to have another party at least challenging the issue as to location and Mr Wilson living in Wanganui.
Local Māori and church leaders are also looking at ways of helping Wilson rather than pushing him out. The district was chosen by Corrections because none of his registered victims live in the area. This woman, who we can't identify, says her daughters were sexually abused by someone else. And she says many victims of similar crimes in the region are terrified at the prospect of his release.
Corrections and parole boards look far too often at the perpetrators and not the ripple effect that it has on the families that have been put through hell.
The council is confident it can block Wilson, but with only 2 weeks until his release date, time is running out. Sarah Batley.
This One News Update is brought to you by ANZ, proud sponsor of the New Zealand Olympic team.